So there's a new outrage from the right wing and the Reform Party. You've got Zia Yusuf calling for the arrest of Zack Polanski. Now, why? Well, basically, they claim that Zack Polanski is incited to murder Nigel Farage, and of course, that's not really the case. So what's happened? What's been in the news? So Zack Polanski attended an event, and a photographer took a bunch of photos and uploaded it to Instagram and tagged Zack Polanski, and Zack Polanski accepted the collab. But it turns out that one of the images was taken of a person wearing a t-shirt that says, "The only plans for Nigel," with a guillotine. Now, of course, it's political satire. It's a random person's t-shirt. And you've got the entire right wing melting down saying Zack Polanski is inciting murder, and Nigel Farage has called the police. He called the police on Zack Polanski. And you've got right-wing commentators saying that the left are once again the dangerous faction in this country, and is clearly not a serious threat. So Richard Tice tweeted this: Reform UK reports Zack Polanski to police over guillotine t-shirt post. Disgraceful BBC bias again. If this was a Reform-led image, it would be top of the BBC website for 24 hours. But he's sharing a BBC article. The idea that this is biased in the BBC because if it was Reform, it'll be 24 news coverage. Well, this story about Zack Polanski has already made it to broadcast media. They've already talked about it on the BBC on TV. Richard Tice is sharing a BBC article. Yeah, if you want to talk about bias, what about this story? So a Reform politician shared a social media post calling for a Labour MP to be shot. Now, Reform said it was a genuine mistake. Where was the 24-hour coverage there? Literally no one knows about it. Zack Polanski's got more coverage on this than a Reform councillor. And then Yusuf tweeted this: if Zack Polanski is not in police custody by this time tomorrow, the police will have declared open season on members of parliament. This man is an utter crank. He's literally calling for Zack Polanski to be put in handcuffs. Now again, if Zack Polanski had tweeted that picture or uploaded that to Instagram, unprompted, he did it from his own account, then yes, you could expect far more scrutiny and he should be attacked for it because that's him directly saying, look at this funny t-shirt of Nigel Farage being beheaded. Okay. Now, I still don't think that warrants the police getting involved. It would just be satire. But, it's still a statement from a party leader. But that's not even what happens, okay? Do these people not understand how Instagram works? He was tagged in a series of images, and then he accepted the collab, and one of them happens to have that picture. And when he found out, when people pointed that out to him, he deleted it and then condemns the t-shirt. And this just goes to show how fragile the right wing are and how much they desperately want to be the victim. And of course, they're invoking Anne Widdecombe in this. Now, the case of Anne Widdecombe, the really disgusting murder of her, has nothing to do with Zack Polanski. But of course, you got Adam Brooks from GB News and other commentators saying, well, this is the violent left. You have to remember, Joe Cox was murdered by someone who shouted Britain First, a far-right person. David Amess was murdered by a ultra-conservative Islamist. And you've had Owen Jones beaten up by far-right thugs. You've had Aaron Bastani beaten up, or he was at least physically assaulted. There's so many examples of right-wing violence. And what that basically means is no political faction really has a monopoly on violence. And we still don't know the details surrounding Anne Widdecombe's case. Lots of politicians, including Reform and Nigel Farage, have jumped on the bandwagon and said, oh, it's a lefty. I mean, it's not helpful to jump in when there's an investigation going on, but maybe he is left-wing. But what does that prove? It proves that whether you're left-wing or you're right-wing, there's going to be deranged people out there that go out and murder people. That's it. But it's so dangerous for the right wing to say the left are uniquely violent when, let's be honest, the left wing these days, really not. I mean, traditionally, what were the left wing like years ago? Anarchists and communists. I mean, women's suffrage. They were like setting stuff on fire, blowing up buildings, right? Taking real direct action. These days, the left have knitting clubs. So I don't buy the idea that the left are just uniquely violent. I mean, if you look at America, the statistics over there, far-right violence is the biggest form of political violence. If you look at all of the assassination attempts against Donald Trump, once again, the right wing say, well, this is left wing violence. It turns out it was right wingers who were going after Trump. Some of those who tried to assassinate Trump were right wingers. They felt he wasn't right wing enough. Now, look, I do have to criticize Zack here, though, because obviously this is a non-story. Obviously, he did not incite murder to Nigel Farage, okay? He just carelessly accepted a collab. But that's the thing. It was careless. The right wing play politics on easy mode. The left are under the microscope. But you also have to understand that from the left. You can't expect that political opponents are going to go easy on you. You can't expect that political opponents are not going to exploit. We see how right wing politicians will exploit anything and everything for political capital. And that is something the left and the Green Party and Zack Polanski really needs to understand. That it's not good enough just to be like, oh, okay, it was a mistake, it was careless, because you're giving them more ammunition. Now, a lot of people say the media and the right wing will come up with lots of smears and stories of Zack Polanski anyway, and they already have lots of ammunition to use against him. That's true. I mean, you cannot be a left-wing leader in this country that calls out wealth and power and not be smeared. It's impossible. If you're not being attacked by the media, then you're not really saying anything at all. So, of course, you expect that. But what I would also say is don't give more ammunition. Don't add in unforced errors. And Zack Polanski has made a couple of unforced errors via social media. And that's important because it makes a difference. I think some people can see a political smear. I don't think most people buy the whole, you support terrorism and Hamas when you call out Israel's genocide. Most people hate Israel and they stand with Palestinians. So when you see the political establishment, when you see Reform do that, people go, yeah, whatever. But then when Zack Polanski retweets something that's criticized a police officer, that does cut through. And when he accepts a collaboration with a t-shirt saying, making a joke of, you know, the guillotine on a Nigel. Apparently the wording is actually from a song, but everyone knows it alludes to Nigel Farage. That is an unforced error. Nobody forced Zack Polanski to accept that collaboration. And what's so important is, in order to be successful as a leftist in this country, you've got to be so unbelievably disciplined, like on an insane level. Like, be the cleanest guy ever, have no dirt, because they will use that against you. I think if we want to be successful and we want to be taken seriously, and the Greens want to be taken seriously, they have to be so watertight. They really do. Because you can't just say, oh, well, a lot of these attacks on Zack Polanski, they're just smears. Some are smears, some aren't. But what matters is how the public perceives Zack Polanski. And his personal poll ratings has gone down. And it went down just before the local elections with a couple of blunders on social media. Again, of course, when you actually look at the issues or add context to the issues, they're nowhere near as bad as the mainstream media paints it out to be. Of course not. But that's the point of the corporate media, is to take something which isn't that bad and overblow it. So a lot of people are saying, well, you know, Zack didn't do anything wrong, really. He just accepted the collaboration. He fucked up, and then he said, you know, I condemn this image and it was just careless. But that small thing, right, in the political realm is massively overblown, especially when you're dealing with Farage, the serial whinger, the guy who wants to make everything about him and him be the victim. He's now turned it into a police investigation, and the police are investigating it. Now, of course, it's very unlikely that anything's going to happen to Zack. The police are going to look at that and go, okay, was obviously, you know, an Instagram post in which he was tagged in. He didn't really look at it, and then he removed himself from the tag. Clearly, there's no criminal conduct here. But the point is, the headline is, Farage calls the police on Zack Polanski, or Zack Polanski has incited murder. That's the story that gets into people's consciousness. And when you add up those small things over time, it paints a picture of Zack Polanski. Because again, this isn't the first time that Zack Polanski has made a mistake on social media. One mistake may be fine. A couple of mistakes, especially the first couple in a small, short window, it accumulates a picture that Zack is careless. And people don't like that. People want politicians to be insanely watertight. And I think it's important for the left to do that. Again, expect attacks from the right wing anyway, but don't give them more attacks. So I am criticizing Zack here. He was careless and he should have done better. But obviously, the right wing, I mean, Yusuf calling for Polanski to be taken into custody is fucking batshit. But it doesn't matter how batshit these people are. They have control of the media. I mean, GB News is literally Reform Network, and GB News has run this story. Talk TV has run this story, seen by lots and lots of people, and it paints a picture that Zack Polanski might be a bit careless. And that doesn't wash well with the public. That's why, going forward, yes, you've got to use social media to get your message across, but I want him to be so disciplined that the right wing will struggle to find anything on Zack, and then just go back to the bullshit tit whisperer stuff, which no one cares about. Or call him or his party anti-Semitic, which no one falls for anymore. You know, that's the sort of attacks I want to see, because I know it doesn't work. But if you give them more ammunition, it doesn't help.